Welcome to AI FISEC Today, the physical security industry's first podcast dedicated to uncovering the mysteries and opportunities around AI. I'm your host, Don Marone, and I'm really excited for this episode's guest, where we talk about why security leaders should be bullish on AI. Meet V. Huang, the Chief Customer Officer at i3 International, a 37-year-old privately held technology company with 9 global patents and an international client base spanning retail, restaurants, grocery, institutional, and critical infrastructure sectors. Under V's leadership, the company has experienced substantial growth across North America, expanding its impact through affordable, integrated AI solutions designed for the real world. V holds an MBA from Western University's Ivy Business School and brings over 35 years of experience in physical security, data analytics, and customer success. A former refugee and cancer survivor, his perspective is shaped by resilience and a deep understanding of what it takes to lead through change. He believes AI only matters when it delivers real measurable outcomes, and that adoption begins with trust, clarity, and purpose. V is known for turning complexity into clarity, especially when it comes to applying AI to solve real-world problems. He leads with humility, compassion, and vision, helping organizations see AI not as a buzzword, but as a practical tool to make better decisions with lasting impact for its employees and the community they serve, not just faster ones for profit. Now, let's jump into conversation with V to learn more about why security leaders should be bullish on AI. All right, welcome to the podcast, V.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate you guys having us on and having me on to talk about why we're so bullish on AI and 25 and beyond.
Yeah, there's, whether you're hype or hesitant on either extremes or you're somewhere in the middle, I think this is going to be a really great discussion, especially in the security industry when we tend to be risk adverse. But we also have a responsibility to, the classic protect people, property, and profits. And what better way to do that than exploring some of the most advanced technology that's out there, obviously responsibly, but be really excited about it, right? And so we had a prior conversation leading up to this that I felt, based on your history on how you grew your business, just the amount of grit that you've shown to be a successful entrepreneur, and your general interest in artificial intelligence and expanding new horizons with it, have been fascinating to me. So I think the audience will feel the same way. And before we jump into the line of questioning, I would love to get your background. Obviously came in, did a quick intro about that, but it always sounds better coming from you. And so maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here, and we'll use that as a transition into the
Sure. So a couple of disclaimers for your audience. I'm not an engineer by trade, so I have no engineering background. I do have a secondary post-education. I have my master's at Ivy League School of Business. And what that really means is it gave me the ability to go outside the industry and look at operation processes a little bit different. But I think in 2025, why people should be looking at this technology, and particularly for myself, and I relate this back to what I do every day, is for guys who are in their late 50s, I would say, maybe 50s. I don't want to expose my full age, but for guys in this age, this AI engine really gives us a second kind of zap of energy, right? It's like taking that testosterone that you need so that you can still keep up in the gym, right? Not cheating. We're not talking steroids and human growth hormones and all that stuff, but sometimes you need a little bit of boost, and this AI is probably that. So my history in this market has always been as an entrepreneur and as an avid learner, right? So we started our business in a garage in the early 90s, and literally it was in a garage. And we got opportunities. We looked at that. We cultivated that opportunity into a business, into a DVR business. That DVR business quickly morphed, as you can see. If you follow this kind of trend, when everything was DVR, it came NVR. Then NVR became, this little thing with a little red box around people's head, became a little bit of computer vision and analytics. And now in 2025, it's all come together. The hardware that was so expensive to support some of these, algorithms or some of these solutions have now gotten down a lot less costly. And the equipment that we install is getting so much better, right? So Don, you're still fairly young, but I'm used to having analog stage, the 520 TV line was the best we could get, and POTS modems. And so when it was back there and people were discussing what you and I are talking about right now, it was really difficult to kind of really think that this was possible. But now with the internet, with gigabits of bandwidth, with AI available, with engines that can train on this data much quicker, everything's becoming really, really accessible. And so my journey started, even though, very, very humbly as a refugee, and just learning off my cuff, like, hey, let's try something else. If that didn't work, try something else. And it wasn't because we had this beautiful plan in place. It was just because we just didn't have options. We didn't have option for VC money. We didn't have option to go to the market and got all these smart, intelligent people. We just did by the seat of our pants. And I think the industry is very similar to that. We still see in this industry some of our best client, which is the mid-size VARs, right? The value-add reseller. They're the guys struggling every day trying to figure out how this AI, the safety security tool is going to apply to their customer. They're the ones who are struggling within their business, trying to figure out how to train their salespeople, how to train their administration people and their support people to talk about this. So this is all kind of coming to a head, and it's really exciting that guys like yourselves are going out there and saying, guys, we need to talk about this. We need to share this idea. We need to share what are the best practices. And I appreciate you kind of reaching out, but long story short, refugee, immigrant, started with nothing, built the company to 160 employees right now. We have we got our 10th global patent last week. Nice. I got a simple little patent to put a little plate on a ceiling, a ceiling tile. We can clip it on in like 5 seconds instead of doing a screw and putting a back plate box and a pipe. Did all of that. Just really starting to think about innovative, right? And if you know my company and myself, we often live by this ethos, right? There's two things we live by at i3. For the older people, we say, think like they did when they tried to get the Apollo 13 back. They had no fuel left in that spaceship. They had only the energy in that spaceship left. They had to figure out mathematically how to slingshot that spacecraft around the moon and then take it back into Earth's trajectory so that it doesn't skip off the Earth trajectory and land safely on Earth and save those 3 people, right? So for those people who are used to those kind of imagery, use that. Or recently, how DeepSeek, a company from China, and I know it's a little bit of a thing to say, but a company from China who was basically blocked from using the highest chipset that they could afford from NVIDIA, did it in a 20th of cost of what most company would do to build an AI agent, like 5.5 million versus 150 million dollars to build these things. And so we often work with that kind of ethos at i3, and that's where I drive most of my people to do. So yeah, that's how we kind of move along this AI journey, and I'm happy to share it with your audience.
Yeah, I love that. I love the the grit that you acquired as a refugee, being able to build something incredible. I call it almost like the resourceful refugee.
Yeah, you
being
have
able to figure out what you can do with what you got. Yeah,
it's
and
similar.
look how much you learn as a result of that.
And it's so cool that with AI today, and if your company isn't using in any way or form, it's so cool that AI can make a smaller company as competitive as the biggest company out there, because AI gives us that almost like cheat, right? Like that oxide in your engine, so you can just take off and run. Now, if you run with AI too hot, too heavy, you might blow up, right? The engine will blow up. But learning how to use it in a manner where it's conducive to your business is going to give you that edge. I often preach to the people who are looking at AI. I said the A in AI, yes, you can call it analytics, call it intelligence, whatever, but I usually look at the A in AI for us in 2025 and 26 is the automation piece. It takes away all of the rudimentary issues we have in business and can replace it with basically good insight, so that we can spend our time doing other things like taking care of our customers, which is the most important. For me anyway, for me and my company.
Yeah, I mean, even something as simple as search. So you searching through mass data sets. In the past, you might use semantic search. Obviously, keyword made its way before that, and we've evolved into something called retrieval augmented generation, which uses AI in order to understand natural language and
and almost predict what you want, right? Almost serving to you, hey, these are the 5 answers that you're thinking about, and you're like, how did it even know that? Like, how did it know that? And imagine if we can apply that to our safety security tools, right? Like, imagine if our systems can now basically tell us before there's an active shooter on site, before there's theft, before there's safety issues, before there's risk issues. And at i3, we often think about this. Can data And the use of an AI engine can it predictively tell us what is going on with our business or organization so that we can actually act on it quicker and thereby avoiding the risk that may come. And that story right there, that idea right there is super interesting to the people out there who are taking care of those items in the business, right? And so that's why we get a lot of meetings now. Our sales have doubled since last year, and we're looking to double
Nice.
again this year. Yeah, it's
What?
growing
That's
quite
awesome, man.
rapid. Yeah,
That's
car
because
right
you hired one of my close friends that you know about. That's why the business blew up right now.
now.
She's really good. No names dropped. So yeah, so let's transition into like the first line of questioning, which hits on mindset adoption. I love your mindset. As an entrepreneur, that's the kind of stuff that I look at and say, like, this is the only way like to make it, because entrepreneurship is really hard. It's an island. You're on your own. You don't have a salary, let's say, and it's you against the world in some cases especially when you start. And I know about your story from how you got started with that, and it's just incredible. But taking a bit specifically around AI adoption and mindset. AI has been proven to give a lot of benefits to companies. 8 out of 10 people, they use ChatGPT. Actually, ChatGPT just reached 700 million active users average each week,
It's
which is
insane.
insane. That's just one product. That's not even like all the other chatbots that
And I
exist.
bet you
Yeah.
700 million people probably use 10% of ChatGPT, what it's supposed to do, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like
Imagine
so
what would happen if they actually used the full 90%. Just like they say the human brain, right? We use what, like
yeah.
21% of the human brain right now?
Yeah.
It's
That's a good
amazing.
analogy.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy. Actually, I didn't think about that. You're right. So it's like, hey, if you learn how to use it more, you can learn how to use your now extended brain.
Yeah, I'm scared when
But
people learn how to use it more. I'm really scared.
yeah, I mean, I obviously use it all the time, right? But I use it sparingly. And actually, I'm doing an AI training this week because one big thing that people don't know is that the overuse, the over resilience of these things actually make you dumber.
It
So
does
they've had
make you less
research that,
creative. Yeah, you got
yep,
to go into this with some lessons, and you got to go into this with a little precaution. Go into it, but go into it with understanding how this works and how it's going to affect you and how you can avoid it. Right? Like social media was made so that we can talk together,
yeah.
but who knew that they made this little thing for endless scrolling, just endless sitting there, just watching funny videos of people falling off their bikes. Right? I'm addicted to that sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, that's what they call the death scroll. And actually, the guy that made it had no intention
Yeah,
for
I'm
it to
doing
do
that.
what it did, and now everybody adopted it because the intention stays. But so here's the thing, right? So everybody agrees that these AI assistants are super valuable because it shows in the numbers of usage. But the reality is, like, putting AI to work is much more than that, especially if we look for the manufacturer side, because everybody else just consumes, let's say, what the camera does. There's a lot of work for the manufacturer side to realize these benefits. So when we think about security leaders, when I think about people in the industry, these personas are manufacturers, security integrators, consultants, end users. I'm probably missing something, right? But that's kind of like high level. So when we think about the security leaders that live across that landscape, why do you think so many security leaders and organizations remain hesitant to adopt AI?
I think that's a great question. For me personally, I can't pontificate on that, but I know I can give you the practical side of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I came into AI with a need to kind of be curious and to know what this is. And then I opened one page on AI and led me to another page. Then because of my curiosity, I opened another page and another page. So when I look at this systematically, why are people so hesitant to do this? One, time, right? So I think at the root of all of our businesses, you're right, we're entrepreneurs, we're a leader, we are an employee, and we're given a task. And that business in itself will make sure that once that task is done, you have another task, and you have another task, and you have another task. And so in a day, we spend endless hours working on these tasks. And what I learned from my journey, an amazing thing that happened to me this year, and I can tell you, I had a couple of transformation years in the 30 plus years I've been doing this, but I only had a couple of transformation years. One of the transformation year was when I started the business and I had no business. And I literally looked at Yellow Pages and said, oh my God, who am I going to call? And I didn't have a teacher and I didn't have a voice recorder and I didn't have a person getting me leads. I just literally opened the Yellow Pages and I said, if everybody did this, they would start at A, so maybe I should start at Z. And I'll share with your audience that 2-3 years into it, I didn't even know that there was a better way, like some of these databases they had. I just didn't know. So I would go down to South Carolina, not even South Carolina, and Charlotte being the main city. I would go to Raleigh and I would open up the phone book, go to the library, copy it, or sometimes, rip it out. And I would call the security integrator one by one the day before and get into a meeting. Just like, the KFC gentleman that used to, Colonel Sanders selling. Literally, I went from city to city, opening up phone book, calling. And amazingly so, after 6 months, that trip, 6 months later, resulted in like $1.7 million in a small company, right? Just because this little whirly guy went around trying to talk to all these Southern people about DVRs at that time. So the first thing I can share with your audience, the reason why people aren't even looking to AI is they don't allot themselves the time, right? So another thing that happened in my life this year is that my management team said, you really like selling and you kind of suck at managing people because you tell them what to do all the time. You get upset too quickly. How about you give up that part and focus on what you love, which is talking to people and selling? I'm like, well, that's kind of bad because I have to give up like 25 people that I'm managing. I'm good at that. And I've been doing it for 20 years. It took a little bit of time, but when I went to the sales row and I had to retrain myself on all these new tools, I was like, oh my God, the young people, they're more fit than I am. They're, they have more energy than I do. They don't have kids burdening them to go to graduation and camping trips. They just have more time. And so I had to figure out with that time that I had, how I could be just as good as some of the young people out there and how I could actually go out and get more connections than they could. And that again led me to, okay, can AI do this? And so when I started having the time to think about all the things that caused me time to do my job, I found this amazing thing called AI and all these AI tools that people are building. And then I said, why the heck would I not use this to even reduce down the time that it would take for me to do all the rudimentary things I have to do? And this is in security as well. And if I did this and I did this correctly, then I wouldn't need to take all this time to retrain. So yes, the audience, your audience, anybody's listening to me is one, set aside some time for yourself first. Train yourself on understanding what generally this AI does. You're throwing out words like agentive, generative. Understand what these things do. Once you understand what it does, apply it to your own personal goals, whether it's life or business. See if it helps. See if it helps you write a better letter to your kid. See if it helps you write a better letter to your wife because you're in trouble because you forgot her birthday, right? But start playing with those tools. And then if it helps you, think about how this is going to help the rest of your company. And the minute you actually understand that, the minute that you understand that this can help and it needs to be controlled, then you're going to be like, why did I not implement this 2 years ago? And if I don't implement it now, how many people out there are implementing this, having less people do more? And what would that mean to my business if that was what I was facing against in the next year? And I think you will change your mind extremely quick and become very bullish on AI. You got to stop sometimes as an entrepreneur, as a leader, to be in the weeds, to working out all those problems you have and taking maybe 20 or 15% of your time and sit back and say, why did these problems happen? And if you look at it, Don, people are very habitual. We do things the same way all the time. And if we don't stop and think about if that's an optimal way of doing things, we end up doing it for the rest of our lives. For me, it was a good 20 years. And so now that I think about it, I'm like, man, I wish I had AI 20 years ago. I'd be so much richer. I'd be so much more calm. And I wouldn't have as much wrinkles, because I would go in and enjoy my life.
You look good, man.
Yeah, all the rudimentary stuff could be taking care of it for me, right? And yes, I'm very bullish on AI and what it can do for a business and for an organization. And I'm going to constantly learn about it because it's like when the internet came in, right? You might not know that. I remember when the internet came in.
I remember. Yeah.
Did it? Yeah. So I was like, yeah, the internet, what's that? And then you're still using pagers and that you thought that was the most advanced thing. And then this guy out of nowhere called, Steve Jobs produced this freaking piece of glass that talks to you, and plays music. And you're like, that will never fly. That's crazy. And then boom, now look at us.
Nice.
So I definitely think the audience needs to kind of look at that. Take some time to think about it. Take some time to train themselves. Lots of good books out there. Lots of good YouTube videos. And then I'm pretty sure, you interview Co-Intelligence is a great book. I always tell people to read. It's a great book to read. It's a little old. It's about 2 years old, but it gives you kind of like an ethos and how AI works. And then other books that you can read. And if you're not a good reader, watch videos. Masterclass has a great video on AI and what it's used for. So there's a lot of resources out there, but once you understand it, you're definitely going to jump on board.
Yeah, one of the things what I heard in there a lot was like experiential learning, like try things. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
use it, right? And so like just go out, do your thing. And I know I find that there must be a small population that don't use it. I think they use it, and I've actually one of the things that's been fascinating to me that some people are hesitant to admit that they use it as much as they do, right? So it's like, yeah, we use it. Oh, I use it all the time, but I don't want to admit that I wrote that email with it. Well, listen, no one's at your AI won't write the email. That's not how these things work. It might rewrite it so that it reformats it today. That's like the way it's
Well, I'm
practically
going to
used.
jump in. It
Yeah.
will. If you just give it like, write me this email about Don Morin, right? They'll just write you
Yeah.
a random email, and it
Oh,
doesn't mean
fair.
anything, right? Some people, the study behind it is at least read what this thing's generating, because it
Right.
might say
That's
that
that's the point.
Don looks like a
Yeah.
donkey.
Yep.
It might do that, and because you didn't read it and just copy and paste it into your thing, you're going to get in a lot of trouble, and people are going to say you use AI and you didn't use it very well, right? Or you use AI and it has all these emojis popping up everywhere, right? Because you didn't prompt the AI to write it like you didn't train it, right? So AI is like a puppy dog. It's really like a puppy dog right now. And it's how you train that puppy dog. So when that puppy dog grows to be a little mature dog, it's going to walk beside you. It's not going to snap at people. It's going to obey. It's going to listen. You need to be the master of the AI, not the other way around. You always hear on the news and stuff, or AI convinced somebody to kill themselves, or AI did bad things, or there's these bad AIs that are created. The good thing right here is if you're going to do this, you have to learn what those control parameters are, and you need to put that in place to control whatever AI solution that you use so that it's beneficial to you. And my biggest thing and my biggest training and parting to people is you have to make it human, almost a little bit humanistic. You can't use an AI to drive so much results and not address the human side of what that AI might do, right? Because people are super fearful of AI. It's going to replace me. It's going to take my job. It's going to do this. Well, yes, if you go into the integration process thinking that, then that's probably what's going to result. But you have to go in there and look at it more openly and see how it can help.
One of the things I've seen, so by like practically building agents, so AI agents are just custom software. They'll automate some, most, or all of a task, just for the audience sake. And so then on the other side, you have these AI companions like a ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Meta AI, Grok off X, right? These names might sound familiar that you use. And so there's that distinction, right? The chat stuff, the AI assistants are really what most people think about right now because that's easy to engage with. It's the other side around agents that are much more ambiguous in nature. Maybe some people never even heard the term. And so I think there's a piece where doing some self exploration, as you mentioned, really just taking some time to learn. A lot of content's online, like unlimited amounts that people can look at. But one of the things that I think is super important about this piece, this section we're talking about, going back to the mindset. So, as a practitioner, where we build these agents, these digital workers, and I'm selling to people, what I've noticed clearly is the technology adoption curve that's kind of tried and true. I'm sure that's been very relevant in our industry. A good example is cloud, and the people's perception around cloud, for example, is that like it's interesting if one as a seller or as a person looking to convince someone to use something, let's say, which is identifying where they sit on that, but it's also letting them know early on like this is the kind of people that we're seeing buy this right now. And I don't think that most people want to be, especially with another industrial revolution, right? That we're in basically, that they haven't coined quite yet or stamped it right yet, quite yet. Is I don't know that people want to be in a position of a laggard or a late adopter, because it's almost like, oh, you're already decided that you're slow rolling this, right? And we've seen how that went with the internet. We saw how that went with the tractor with farmers. We saw how that went with people that didn't want to use calculators, right? Like history does not repeat, but it most certainly rhymes. And so now we're at a place where intelligence could be democratized in a small way, but it could go in other ways, which is a bigger conversation. But, I think about that a lot to say, if I was a security leader, where do I fall on that chart? Like, if I on the innovator side, so meaning I'm like so bullish that I'll just spend money and like because I can tell the board that we're doing some cool stuff, and I'm excited about technology. You know, these are the kinds of people that buy like the latest tech for their house and they just love it, right? I'm kind of one of those. And then maybe you're in like the early majority, which is the majority of people, I think I want to say in the industry, I hope, where they're not against it. What they need is proof. What they need is validation, right? So
Yeah,
maybe
they need
let's
an
talk a little bit
ROI.
about that.
Yeah, they need an
Yeah, yes.
ROI, right?
Yeah,
So I think
exactly.
a lot of times when we talk about these ideas, you're right. When we talk about these ideas, you're like, what? Really? Really? You can do that? And it's because I think in the industry, Don, right now, I'm gonna bucket into, we have traditional reseller, right? I'm gonna take a hardware, I'm gonna take a software, I'm gonna connect the two. It's gonna provide you a solution. Most of that solution is very reactive. And then I'm gonna expect you to go into that solution, navigate through my way of processing whatever you need to get from that solution. And there you go. Thank you, pay me. I find that that is the traditional model. Now, what I'm finding is, newer companies are coming in and saying, we want to buck that trend. Like, that's weird. That's weird that I have to pay you thousands, if not millions of dollars to follow your solution, like to follow the way that to do things. And then I have to beg and plead with you to try to customize it a little bit to work with my organization, right? And so I'm like, we're one of the few industries that still do that. Other industry who've already matured to a level beyond ours
Hmm.
are often customized solution, and when I say customize, you can go into Salesforce and create your own dashboards to pull out the data
Self-serve,
you need to
direct.
show that your sales team and your CRM is engaging your customer in the way that you need it to, right? And that's how they grew to a couple of billion or whatever number it is that they have right now. And so as practitioner in the security industry, we need to look at other companies that have gone through our growth pathways and how they have changed. And if you want to be on the top of that crest, but not below that crest where you get hammered by that wave, right? And you want to ride that crest, you got to do a little bit of both. But you're very right. Like anything that you try and anything that we do at i3, it actually follows this ethos, right? One, it's got to be super affordable because we want to make sure that whatever we put out, it doesn't matter if Amazon or one of our clients, Amazon or Whole Foods does it, or they're big. Everybody thinks they have like huge amount of money, or it's a little guy that has 10 sites or 10 buildings or one small building. It doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are. That same application that we're applying should work for everybody. And the pricing should be so affordable. So this is where I'm applying maybe Mark Cuban's idea, like when he opened up his drugstore idea, right, in the US, because he saw all this bureaucracy and all this markup in price. He said, here's amoxicillin. I buy it for $5. I'm going to sell for $7. Go ahead, compare.
Transparency.
There's no marketing. There's no advertising. It's amoxicillin. FDA approved, it's amoxicillin. It might say amoxicillin B instead of amoxicillin A, but it's amoxicillin, right? You want it, buy it. So we apply that at i3. And so our ROI based on that application is much quicker. So everything that we do with AI and data ingestion and predictive analytic modeling applies that. And when we apply that, it works for our private company because we don't have the money to go out there and spend hundreds of millions of dollars on Google Ad, search engine optimization, going out there, doing big trade shows, giving away tons of presents, and prizes. We find that and we're like, wow, we wish we could. I always tell my partner, like, oh, we should do that. He goes, how are you going to do that and stay profitable to the shareholder and the people who work here? So we're always trying to deep seek or Apollo 13 this thing. But at the end of the day, you're definitely right. The people who want to execute this and want to go far with it, take what you're doing today, right? Whether it's safety, security, trying to protect your people, property, or profit. Take those ideas that you're in charge of, you're responsible for, and go out and search in the market to see who has not only the story or the solution that can solve that problem, but prove it to you. Like literally tell them, okay, you want my business? Prove it. You said that you can reduce my shrink by X, prove it. You said that you can get people from not carrying weapons in here, or you said that you can make me run a safer environment by stopping people from vandalizing or threatening my employees. Any of these things, prove it to me. Now, depending on your size of your organization, they might be able to do it for you with a commitment to get the rest of your business. Or if it's not, then pay a little bit of the money and test that out before you go gangbuster and everything and say, yeah, I'm going to bet on this and then wait 4 or 5 years and find out it's all vapor, right? Because that's the other thing with this new AI technology is I see a lot, and you saw it too, Don. Like you're kind of the technologist, but I see people taking videos from their iPhone, and in my retail world, they show somebody taking stuff and putting it in their pocket, right? I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, how are they getting that video? Like literally, like it's from a camera, and there's little boxes around them, and you see it, right? And you call it. You're like, that's so fake. But the people who watch it and they don't know AI, I'm like, no, can you guys do that? I've been in a meeting where executives ask me, I've seen this video on LinkedIn and stuff. Can you guys do that? And I literally have to explain to them, sir, your camera is 17 feet in the air. It's got a 45-foot angle on the shelf. You can't see a person's hand in their pocket. And if you do, and we give you a 20 megapixel camera, you can't transmit it through your network. And they're like, but I saw it on LinkedIn. You guys telling me you can't do it? I'm like, we can do it, but it's going to cost you a lot of money for one camera.
I know exactly what you're talking about now.
It's just like ridiculous. It's this group that's trying to get the market, trying to get the meeting, and they put out all this kind of like, you can call it fake news or whatever. They put out all this junk. And people think it's real because AI helped them make it look so real. And they're like, it's got to be real. So I think like on those kind of things, you got to put that practical mindset in place. You don't have to be an engineer, but put that practical mindset and say, prove it to me. Like literally prove it to me, or you're not going to get my business.
Yeah, I love that you said that because like one of the questions I had was like, where does the hesitation, stem from, right? So was it like a lack of clarity, relatable use cases? And you hit it right there. It's proof. Give it to me, proof. And I agree. I think so. I appreciate that transition because that is the early majority. I might have said early adopters, but actually it's the early majority that needs the proof. And so especially, as one of the things I'm always curious is agents. So meaning like agents are supposed to be, they're promising a lot. And actually the way even Silicon Valley looks at it, the promise of the agent of the future, AI agent of the future, is that you give it a goal and it goes and does it. Okay, well, that sounds good in practice, but in execution, it's very, very difficult to do that. I'm talking about one that fully automates something just from an input, depending on the complexity of that, is crazy. So I think about that because it's one, the deliverability of the agent. If it's just like a SaaS upgrade, then no one cares. But if it requires the customer to put up a lot of upfront money to get it done, that would be interesting to see how they test it because their data or their environment is not necessarily the same as someone else's. If an agent
I think you're kind of hitting it, and I want to take it to the practical. Always like, I love your ideas. I'm going to take it to the practical side. Think about this. So an agent is this basically tireless entity that's looking at the scene or scenario and performing a particular task that you want it to perform, right? With financial tasks. In our world, it's safety and security. Let's agree, right? So you expect this kind of AI tool to basically tell you that it's safe, to tell you that your site's secure, right? That your profit's good. So here are the problems. And this is where we specialize in. So we know that that's a possibility because the engine's there. The processing power is there to do that. The challenge with our industry, the data's still all over the place.
Yeah.
It's a whack-a-mole, right? It's a salsa.
And siloed.
Yes.
Not only is it random
Multiple
places, but they might be in
and because of cybersecurity, and because of cybersecurity, it is block, hashtag encrypted, block. And so what happens is to get a really smart agent, and you know this, generative AI, they learn from what you feed it. You tell it it's doing a good job. They have a survey at the end to say, how was my transcription of the meeting? Is it 90% accurate, 80% accurate, 70% accurate? Even our face detection software, we learn, we test, we come back, we retrain, right? So at the core is this data. Everybody talks about it. Not a lot of people are good at collecting it, right? So if you don't have the right data, you can talk to your blue in the face. You won't get anywhere because that agent is going to take that data and basically, just like a shareholder's financial meeting, they can interpret that data any which way. I mean, you could be doing horrible and a financial analyst can go and say, well, we're doing horrible because we're doing a big change up here and our sales shows like this, right? They can configure those numbers to tell you what it wants to tell you. So my biggest warning to this group is whatever agent or whatever tools you're going to use, start at the basic root, right? Can you collect proper data? Are you able? to collect that proper data? And then if you are able to collect that proper data, how are you going to process it, right? So in all the things that I do, most people see the end result. But at the core of what we do at i3, it's that data collection, that data aggregation that we're so good at, because fortunately, we've been doing this for over 30 years, and we've built up these long-term relationships with some of these data connectivity points, whether it's an IoT device, whether it's a POS device, whether it's data being ingested from ERP or CRMs. We're able to ingest all of that data, and all we did was place an AI engine on top of it so that we can understand what's going on, right? What's going on with this data, and then act on it and give really kind of intelligent, right now for us, it's really intelligent advice to the end user of what to do. Eventually, they'll poke you and tell you, this is where you need to go, or else you're gonna suffer a huge loss, right? So, that's kind of like our big secret of looking how data is done. There's a lot of technicalities in how to get that done. But yeah, it takes a lot of IP. It takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of thought process, and then building the process behind that to make this all work.
Yeah, yeah. The data, obviously, well, not obviously, but for the audience, is like super core to AI, right? That's like that's the base of the brain. I look at from if you use an analogy of a tree, it's the roots of the data ingestion, and the trunk is where you're doing a lot of the processing, and then you've got the branches that push the data through to the leaves that are basically your output result. So to that end, it's like there is no tree without some foundation. And in this case, there is no AI without some foundation. So on that note, you made me think about something that with regard to when we have a security leader that might be hesitant, it could come from the inability or the difficulty to get to a place where they can get to the data. I know this because I've seen it in the industry already, even in my role, by talking to some companies where the data getting access is very difficult. There has to be a lot of money spent just to create, a data warehouse in order to make the data accessible, which for the audience is basically just a kind of a
But even
central
more
command
rudimentary for you,
data.
like when you collect this data and you want to share it with other AI aggregation engine to get it out, right? Like, what are you doing with my data? Where are you putting it? Is it in the US? Is it in Canada? Is it on-prem?
Is it on-prem or is it SaaS?
Yeah, it's just multiple layers of question. People are very worried about this data because a lot of it has privacy information in there, right? So how do you do that? How do you apply? What type of technology or certification do you apply behind that? Are you SOC 2? Are you ISO 2000?
A lot of considerations.
All these things, it applies to how you can ingest it. And I think as leaders in the industry, you have to go back to understanding how AI is going to give you, a more robust team, a more robust business, but you have to go back and actually understand how you're going to apply it and try to remove some of those obstacles, or else you're just going to hit obstacle and people won't want to do it. They're like, we can't do that. It's against our governance. It's against our policy.
Yeah, people have been talking about modernization for a long time, and if anything if this does not give them a push, then probably nothing will. And so I'd love to hear, going back to how you've led your teams with entrusting AI. Like, what role do you think a security leader should play in shifting their team's mindset from whatever its fear or lack of interest of AI to trust its value? Like, where does what kind of role does that security leader play?
I think that first and foremost, you have to show them that you're ingesting it in the way that you want them to ingest it, right? So definitely be your own experiment. Don't ask your people to ingest ChatGPT without you understanding how to ingest ChatGPT. Don't bring in a consultant or an expert and just say, hey, can you teach my group? Because they're looking to you, right?
That's a good point.
So I think take that money, take that consultant and train yourself first. Mm-hmm. Then create the program, because you understand the nuances of how your people work within the organization. You understand the culture and the discipline that takes them to change, and then start building that. And what I would tell the leadership in the company is that you're going to have people who are like, yes, I'm all in, but 80% of your people will be pushing back against you. They would definitely push back against you. Why? Because they're worried. And so 80% of your job is almost convincing the people who are also like zealous of your company, love your company, want to be there to do a great job for your company. They're also going to be the ones that are pushing back because they just don't understand. And so don't forget about, once you train yourself, to come up with a program to train your management team get them to buy in. And then once your management team and everybody buys in, then go back and train your people. Don't just go in and just train your group, because if you just train your group and you forget about all the other group that's going to have to interject with the solution to make it holistically, you know, to make it usable for the whole organization, you're not going to have a great time of implementing this. So don't forget all those important factors that people at the end of the day have to accept what it is that you want to implement. And that idea is super new to them. So bring them along for the ride, train yourself first, bring those people along for the ride, and then come up with a good plan to integrate it, but integrate it within your own culture and your own vision and mission, and build it so that you don't run into more walls. Because that's what I faced. I mean, it took us 5 years. It should have really took us about 1.5 years, but it took me 5 years. And I'm still working on it. I'm still working with some of my executive team members who are resistant against this. Why do we have to go to the cloud? Why do we have to go with data? And I said, because we just got this big contract. Well, how are we going to change our people? Are we supposed to be servicing people at 2 minutes when they call in? These are the questions. We've been giving great service. We got great survey. They've given us all this accolades. Why are you pushing us to do better? We're already good. I hear this all the time, not only with my group, with other groups I'm talking to, and with other leaders I'm talking to. And it's almost like, Don, you and I kind of see, like right now, there's a lot of smoke fire coming out from Canada, but we actually see through the smoke. Like we're seeing through it. And a lot of people just see gray skies. And they're like, oh, that's my reality. It's a gray sky. No, it's not your reality. If we can get through this, there's bright skies on the other side. There's greener pastures. But you got to trust me. You got to go. That's going to be your biggest challenge.
You take me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you take me as a sort of leader that is both comfortable leading from the front and from afar. Like there's a lot of ability to be nimble, right? Maybe there's a preference from the front, because you take me as a practitioner, a doer, as someone that took from the yellow pages and said, we're going to make this happen despite our resources, but with our grit and our willpower. And like that's exactly, I think, what's needed in the industry for everybody, right? I mean, I met some awesome leaders, some great people in this industry that I think act similar. And I find that leading through this change as we want our companies to stay relevant with what's happening, I don't know that it can be anything else but that. Like if it's if it's someone that just kind of is waiting around to say, well, we're good, we're doing great, like we don't need to change. And I'm like, well, but see, for someone with that mentality, that there's always opportunity to improve. You're a lifelong learner, I think, as we mentioned, and the willingness to roll your sleeves up and like get dirty to make it happen. Meaning that it's not above you to go to a customer sales meeting. That's the kind of stuff that I've always loved and admired with a lot of senior leaders that I met in the industry. So did I get that right? What kind of leader would you fall into? Where are you at in the battle?
I'll share something personal with your audience. Yeah. When I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, I remember this very clear. I sat and listened to Tim McGraw 50 times, right? Live life like you were dying. 50 times on the bed, on my couch. I'm like, why did this happen to me? I'm healthy. I don't smoke a lot. I don't drink a lot. And yet I get hit with stage 4 cancer, and they said I had 15% chance to live, right? So you're hit with this life-altering moment. Like it hits you like this. And you're kind of sitting back. And I realized in that moment 3 things. 1, in my whole life, I've been trying to control every facet, my finance, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, where I go, how I eat. I try to control my body by working out and keeping healthy, right? I try to control everything. And yet in this one moment, boom, everything's gone. I learned very quickly, control is not yours. You like to in a business. And again, let's relate this back to the business. As a business leader, you want to control the result, the outcome, right? You want to control like how AI is ingested by your people, but you can't control everything. That's one. Number 2, what I also found out is that the only thing you can control is you. So when I went through this, I said, okay, if this thing's going to kill me, it's going to kill me the way I want to be killed. I'm going to go out my own style. So when the doctor told me not to go out and do CrossFit during my gym session, I said, F you, I'm going to do CrossFit. When they told me, you know what, you need to drink more water, I said, I'm going to drink 5 times more. In fact, I drank so much water, they told me to stop drinking water because I wanted to dilute the chemo from my body as fast as I could, right? But they were like, your alkaline level is so low now, you're going to get dizzy. Stop drinking. So we were supposed to drink 2 liters a day. I drank 6 liters. I forced myself to drink 6 liters. So I did everything they said that I couldn't do and I shouldn't do. And finally, what I found out at the very end, that it wasn't all because of me that got through this. It was a huge community of support. My coworker, my wife, my children, everybody came in and supported. So I took that into my business life. When I'm through this AI journey, I can control what I can absorb. Based on what I can absorb and understand, I can give that as a baseline on where I set the expectation for my coworker and my employees and my leadership team. Once that's done, I'm going to go and try to get them to buy into this so that I can get the whole group support so we can get to that designation. In my cancer, it was getting to a cure. And right now I'm cancer free for the last 2 years, but to get to a cure faster, right? Or to get to the podium or to get to the finish line much faster. And I implore you, your audience, to kind of take some of this learning, this life learning I have, and apply it to the actual business they run. How can I take this AI that's going to be a little bit resistant and I'm going to have a lot of challenges? How am I going to implement it in the company? How am I going to get more people to support it? Because at the end of the day, I have this bullish vision that AI is going to help me reduce down labor, increase my profitability. If you're not a business, increase my safety, increase my security, and make it safe and secure for everybody, right? So protecting business, profit, and people are all part of this AI thing. And if you can articulate that and bring it to something that people can recognize, you're going to get support and you're going to get there all that much quicker. So I would say, take some of that. And a lot of these learnings, like I told you, I'm not, you put me out to this guy that's really sit back. If I read a book, Don, I'll fall asleep, right? It's really these things. I've just got a lot of blessing in my life. It came out of nowhere. Cancer hit me. It made me a better person, right? Being a refugee, I didn't ask for it. It just came and I lived through the moment. And it was basically do or die, right? Either get on the boat or die of starvation. Go to school. And because you're on welfare for, I could tell you were 17 and you didn't want to be in that community anymore around those people, get a job and get educated. It was get some sales or lose your job. And it was just, again, it was just one or two. I only had two choices. I could sit back and cry about it or I can do something. And so I just chose to not sit back and cry. That's the only thing that I can probably share with your audience that you can do for yourself, right? And how you can make yourself and your business better. Just give yourself two choices. Don't give yourself five, because then you start thinking about it and you do nothing.
Yeah. Man, what an inspiring story. And I didn't know that about you. So figured that out live here. And
yeah, I didn't want to share it, but a lot of people look at me and they'll go into LinkedIn. They're like, well, this guy's squirrely, man. Like once a year, I usually share that picture where I'm like, all my neck's peeling off because all the radiation stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I look great. People,
man.
Yeah, my audience, everybody at that time thought I was going to die. Like now they talk to me, they said, V, we thought you were going to die. And I said to them, no, I look great. I went to every sales call. Hey, everybody's doing, how's everybody's number? And I was like, I was going through it, but now I look at it, I'm like, man, were you like full of crap? And the people who actually saw you were probably like, oh my God, he's actually going crazy because of the chemo and radiation. He's actually loopy, right? So yeah, so when I look at those moments, and I could share it with your audience with, take on those moments, take on this opportunity with AI and really be bullish about it. Don't be scared of it, because if you are scared of it, it's going to cause hesitation. And when it causes hesitation, it's just going to delay what you need to do. And if you're 6 months or a year behind this, literally someone's going to take your spot. Like this, I always preach this to you and your audience, and even to my group right now, especially to my sales group. If you don't go out there right now, I tell my salespeople, and get that opportunity, the company that gets that opportunity and hooks into that client and shows them what AI can do and data analytics can do, because they have to do so much work to get on their network and get on their system, is going to have that client for 15 years. That's my LTV, lifetime value of a customer on a traditional side is around 5 to 6 years, Don. With an AI applied solution, we're seeing a trajectory trend that's showing 12 to 15 years. Can you imagine having a customer for 15 years?
Is that because the solution that's being
it's constantly
so much more high value?
Yeah, well, think about it. You have to get on their system. We talked about data ingestion. You have to be a trusted partner. Do you know how much work that takes to get all this data, like big data, right? We're talking data lake, data pool. How much work that takes. And then you have all these people who are ingesting the solution outside of security. We talk about this, operational tool, security tool, safety tool. Now it doesn't apply just for the security. Imagine if your Windows 365, do you think that client is ever going to leave Windows 365? All the PowerPoint you did, all the Word, all the Excel, all the Copilot, all the team session recording. How can they leave? And once they sign on with Copilot or once they sign on with Gemini, guess what? You ain't getting in. You ain't getting in. The problem is people think they have time, but they don't, because smaller companies are coming out of the woodwork every day and they're signing these people on, and I'm like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? They actually paid that kind of money for it. So for me, it's an amazing market right now. It's just a hyper fast market of growth, and people need to kind of understand that potential and learn as quick as they can, or they're going to be left behind.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate that context. And I'd love for you to take us home with this last question, which I think is a good kind of, what do the next steps look like? Like if I was a security leader listening to this, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they're bullish, maybe they're bearish, I don't know, but some sense of what the next 5-year outlook looks like for them in the context to, if they wanted to build, let's say an AI powered workforce, or, invest more into AI in order to enhance their solutions to have a stickier customer that lasts 15 years. What do they need to start doing today to build towards that 5-year future later on?
Well, definitely start listening to things like this to get inspired. I mean, Don, you and I don't think we hope that people are going to take this and totally change what they do. I think this is the first step, listening to these kind of podcasts, then investigating it yourself. And I think you owe yourself and your company, if you're in a leadership role or management role, you owe yourself and your company that time where you're going to invest and research into what it can do for your company, right? Break down the number, break down the challenges, and figure this out. Then implement. But from a practical side, from an end user side, what they're going to see is, I think, start with your basics. Look at your system, right? How can I consolidate all these platforms to start giving me now data instead of just video and some triggers from the alarm system? How am I going to pull all these things together? Start asking yourself that question. Start pushing that against your integrator if he's the only guy that's doing this for you. How are you doing that for me? Because at the end of the day, if you believe that issues in our business or in our organization are caused by people, unless you believe in ghosts or an entity that goes around and causes you all this issue, right? Or bad mojo, then if people are causing your issue, and if you believe that people are habitual in the things that they do, and I believe that, and I can show you tons of data points that people are very habitual. We're very habitual in the way we wake up, sleep, do our work, do our daily activity, right? And if you believe that people are habitual, and that habitual behavior can be translated through these devices that can grab, think about this. You got cameras that can record high def, right? Far away, 1,000 feet. You've got thermal cameras that can tell heat. You've got IoT sensor that can actually smell ammonium gas, CO2, like Halo and all these other products. You have, alarm systems. You have POS system. You have data system. You have HR system. You have inventory system. And by combining all these data points together, if you believe that it can now give you a good story of what's going on, and by able to detect this data, eventually what's going to happen with the AI world is that if all of that is done properly, you're going to get the ability to predict. And isn't that what our job is? Like, our job is to keep, you said very clear at the beginning, protect our people, profit, and property. Well, how do you protect it? Well, you protect it from bad actors, right? Or maybe forgetful employees, right? Or non-compliant employees. How do you do that? Well, you do that by actually understanding and ingesting the data of their day-to-day activity and building out a model, feeding it to this agentive AI that's constantly processing and says, hey, wait a minute, that's Don. And Don is not doing what he's supposed to do to be productive today. And so what I'm going to do is give Don a little nudge. I'm going to pop on Don's phone and say, hey, Don, it's i3's Q. And i3Q just said, do you know that if you do this every day, it's going to cost us a lot of money? Do you agree? And here's a training video. What do you do to that person? Oh my gosh, how do they know this? Oh, I better do this because, if I don't do it, they're going to know. So you get that person to be compliant. If that person is outside and they're not a part of your organization, a speaker comes on and talks to them and says, hey, you can't do that. So you're actually using AI to automate some of these basic functions that you would have had to hire a company to do and paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so by actually looking at your system and understanding how AI can be applied, you can start doing some of the rudimentary process to get it ready. So when you're ready to execute, everything's in place, right? But that's the vision I would give to your audience, is that what you've talked about, the agentic AI, is coming. The AI engine itself is ready. It's now companies like ourselves collecting that data, understanding the data, and building this model so that eventually all these organizations will have a tool that will actually help them predict risk. And man, that's a billion-dollar business, right?
That is.
And still today, I have companies still trying to sell cameras. I don't really care about cameras. I care what that camera can capture and how I capture that data and how I process that data. I care about how that IoT device processes the data, captures the data, and gives it back to me. But my job is to ingest that data and give you meaningful data points and pokes so that I can make your business and world a little bit safer. Right? That's my kind of like promotion to i3, but that's what we do, and that's why we're growing so fast.
I love it. And you said doubled in the last year. Is that what I heard earlier?
Well, we're going to double again in 2026. I just went through the numbers with my VP. And the only reason why we're doubling is because we're private.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool, man. Dude, thanks so much for taking us home. You landed that plane so well, and I appreciated the answer on that. So to close up, how do people find you if they want to reach out? Maybe they want to learn more.
Yeah, really cool.
i3,
Yeah.
Maybe they want to talk to you. Like, what are they?
Yeah, I'm a big LinkedIn fan. So if you want to follow what I do and stuff like that, I noticed LinkedIn's probably the best forum. It's not TikTok. We've got guys that are 40 or 50 that aren't going on to TikTok, right?
Start dancing.
Yeah. So I do a little bit of that on LinkedIn. I'm very
Yeah.
myself on LinkedIn. I think that's why people kind of follow me, because I'm not like, set a picture and then write a corporate mandate on it. I show people what I do every day, right? So yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on our i3 webpage. But yeah, we share these ideas all the time. Like we have nothing to hide. We know that there's tons of competition coming, but we're confident that we've been around for 30 plus years, and we'll be around for a lot longer, because we have great people at i3 that are constantly thinking about how to do this better, right? And if you think you can beat us, bring it on, baby. We're ready.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Thanks, V.
All right. Thanks, Don. Appreciate you.